Hello, hello. It's Shay.
Everybody,
Shay and Melanie. It's the Shay and Melanie show today. Of course, we have myself, Shay, the holistic doula. And then we have Miss Melanie, who is the CEO and founder of Reverence Birth. We are both doulas. Um, for those who don't know, I am a full spectrum doula. I serve the greater parts of New Jersey, so that's North Jersey, Central Jersey, um, a little bit of South Jersey. And I've been a doula for the past 6 years. I love what I do. And because I love what I do, I love connecting with other doulas who love what they do because you can't not love this job. You don't become a doula because you're trying to make money. That's not the way. That isn't why. You really have to have a love for this, a love for birth work. And so I love connecting with other doulas because we kind of lead with our hearts, and that is what makes for a great doula. And so I'm going to pass the mic over to Melanie, and she's going to introduce herself and tell you guys all about her and how wonderful she is.
yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
like Shay said, I am the CEO and founder of Reverence Birth. I do not only birth doula work, but I also do prenatal health education. I do community health work for clients and birth education. And I serve like northern New Jersey, but with I always say within an hour from my house. More than that, no. Pero, yeah, I am a bilingual doula as well, Spanish and English, and yeah.
Yes, yes, definitely. We need more bilingual doulas. So I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to connect with you. I'm glad to have you be part of the team. So those who are tuned in are probably going, what team are you talking about, right? So a few months ago, I started a collective, and I think in general, in across the board for all of these discussions. I probably talked a little bit about the collective in each discussion. And I probably just said that, the collective. But let's say who the collective is. We are the Diverse Doula Collective. And exactly what you're looking at and exactly what it sounds like is what it is. We are a collective of doulas who are committed to serving moms of different cultures, of multiple cultures. We are all multicultural. We are a diverse collective, and our goal is to really hone in and tap into the care and the proper care of our Black and Brown mamas. So those who know the numbers know exactly why we do what we do, because these numbers out here, these maternal mortality numbers amongst Black and Brown women are shocking. And the amounts of deaths among our Black and Brown babies is also equally shocking, more than it is happening to our counterparts. So when the collective came together, it was one for wanting to connect with more birth workers of color, um, and who understand the bias that sometimes come with serving the moms that we serve within a hospital setting. And it just quickly became a sisterhood too, because of course we're doulas, we are loving, wonderful people, and we get to love on one another and really support one another. So as much as doulaing is about mothering the mother, it's also about, for us, mothering each other, supporting each other, and encouraging each other, even when these numbers that are staring us in the face and look crazy and are just like heartbreaking, even when we're having those moments of trying to understand or accept, not even accept, but just understand what these biases are and why this is still happening. Like, that's earth shattering. And so we need each other to lean on when moments like that happen. So I am grateful because the collective grew and we have some wonderful members. And so Melanie is one of the wonderful members. So aside from just being a fellow birth worker, she is literally part of my team, right? She makes up a great part of the Diverse Doula Collective team and also known as the DVC. And so I am grateful for the collaboration and even more just to have her in my circle and have her as a support person. This is my doula. She's my doula. um, and so that being said, we're going to jump right into setting boundaries in birth work. It's rough. I remember first, it's one thing when you are like, yes, I want to become a doula, right? You're like, woohoo, doulahood sounds so fun. It's so great. And then it's another thing to step out on that ledge and actually become a doula. So when you step out and you start talking to people, telling them what a doula is, explaining to them why they need you, sometimes in that pushing of yourselves, you forget to set boundaries, right? You're like, yeah, doulas are great. You need a doula because you need somebody who's going to support you and be there and encourage you and make you feel good and this, that. And we list all of the great things about ourselves, right? And so when that person hires us and is like, hey, I need you right now at my house because my feet hurt and they're swollen and I'm unsure. And, they start throwing things at you. You're like, okay, yes, because I'm that support person. But it's also like, okay, but to what end? Like, where do I draw the line? Because it is 3 o'clock in the morning and you want me to come over to check your feet? Like, is that what I should be doing? And how do I say no? How do I backpedal from me saying, you need my support? You need a person like me in your corner to now saying, like, okay, well, you don't need me for that. You don't need me right now. And so I love Melanie because even in interacting as being my support sister and my doula, she is good at setting boundaries. Like, you got to respect it. She's like, nope, this is what it is, you know. And she'll ask, like, you said what? You're gonna do what for who? We have our doula discussions, and so Melanie, you're the perfect person to kind of zoom in on and ask these questions. But before I ask the questions, hi Brenda, welcome to our discussion for the evening. Thank you for joining.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I ask all, and though you're the first one, there will be more who join, I'm sure. And the question is going to be, where are you calling in from, and are you a birth worker?
I am calling from Mukilteo, Washington, and I'm a I'm a new doula.
New doula in the house. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thank you.
being here. So we were just kind of talking about just starting out and just saying how it can be very difficult to set boundaries in birth work. And so I'm going to ask you, Melanie, what is the first step you take when securing a new client or introducing yourself to a new client to say, this is the setting, this is the boundary, this is the kind of interaction that we are about to have?
So to start out with that, I'm gonna root it back to our new viewer. So a lot of I realized when I've encountered especially new doulas, we're so excited, we want to say yes to every work that we get, everything, and then we realize no, like by the time we're more into it, like was I so lenient because I'm so worth more of that, because you hear a lot of new birth doulas wanting to put their services for free, or just like Shay said, just do anything, just get their business noticed, and it really isn't really the greatest idea, because then you're going to eventually burn out faster. So going back to Shay's question, so when I have my first interaction with my clients, I kind of let them know, like, first you have to go in confident. You have to go in confident. You're a professional. This is your business. This is how you make money. This is not something you do for, well, yes, you do for fun, but this is also what you do for a living. Okay. And so you take all your knowledge, all your education, like, accountable. So when you're sitting there, like, this is how this, for example, going over the agreement. This is what I'm okay with. This is not what I'm not okay with, and this is not what I'm acceptable. Do you agree with that? If you do, you can sign. Because at the same time, if you don't have like that mindset, like direct conversations, or if you don't have like from the jump, like I'm sorry, I like when you receive a text and they expect you to answer, like, I'm sorry, I do not answer texts at this time. According to our contract, this is when I can answer your phone call. You just gotta do it, because if not, they're gonna take advantage of you. You're never gonna have your own free time, even though yes, this is your business, but this isn't like they can, if they're like 20 weeks, for example, they can wait until mañana until you answer their text message. You don't have, you know what I'm saying? Unless they're like about to pop, okay, you can be a tiny bit more lenient when you answer their messages. Or have from the beginning a system, a system like, this is how I do it. Get your clients used to it. Like, hey, I have my clients text me 411 or 911. 911 is like, I really need to talk to you now. I don't have time to wait. Or 411 be like, I just need to ask you something, but it can wait. Kind of like that. Like, from the jump, they know what relationship they're getting into. They know what to be expected from you, and vice versa. And also that they signed the contract and they said they were okay with my rules. So you just need to go in like a bad boss. Like, you cannot be like, oh yeah, okay, fine, because and then they're gonna eat you up, right? And they're gonna get their way, and that's not fair to you, because you take your education and your business seriously, and just because you're young doesn't mean you're not knowledgeable or you don't want to be a businesswoman. So that's kind of how I kind of tend to navigate that first encounters.
Yes, I love that 911 411. Look, I just learned something new. I like it. That is a good thing to do and utilize. I'm gonna also jump in and say that, again, going back to when I first became a doula, too, when you first become a doula, usually you're serving maybe one client a month, maybe two on a really good month. And so it's easy to be accessible. So sometimes it's like you get the work right and you're like, yeah, I could do this all the time. I could text the client back and forth, no problem, because I have nothing else to do. But when that starts being like, for me, I book about 5 clients a month. So that means I am prospectively in contact with a client every day, every other day, because it's the 5 clients that are due this month, but it's also the 5 clients that were due last month that now have their babies and had questions, and it's the 5 clients due next month that I have to set up prenatals for, right? So that means I have 15 people texting me. That means that, and at any given time about any given subject around birth work. And then sometimes it's just like, hey, Shay, can I eat this fish? Like, is this healthy or not? So I say from the beginning, as much as it seems like, yeah, this is going to be great, you want to set your boundary as what it's going to be for your future. You walk into your present business as if you're the CEO, you have 10 clients, you run it for what you see in the future. And I'm a big believer in that. I run my business like it's a corporate multi-million-dollar something, because that's my goal, not the corporate part. But I plan for this to be my 24/7. I'm in the office. I'm seeing clients come in and out. I'm dealing with them and being personal. Like, I want to make sure I have the time. I want to make sure I have the energy. And I have to have the boundaries in order to have that time and energy. So I walk into it like that from then until now. That is what it looks like. So definitely, like you said, when you sit down for that first consultation, take control of the room. This is what, when I sit down for my consultation, look, this is my consultation sheet. I'm like, all right, nice to meet you, Melanie. I'm so glad that you reached out to me. I'm going to ask you a few questions. After I ask you the questions, I'm going to talk about myself. After I talk about myself, I'm going to open the floor for any additional questions if I didn't answer what you're looking for. And then I go down my list of what I want to ask of you. I get that part out of the way. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about me. And so also from that screening process of being like, okay, so when are you due? And Melanie's like, I'm due in January. Okay, so we got a little bit of time. All right, so what are you expecting? Why did you want a doula? That is one of my big questions. Why do you want a doula? What was your reason for looking for one? Oh, because I have gestational diabetes and I'm not exactly educated on what to expect, and I'm nervous that it may be a C-section, and I just want to know how to prepare the body. So I already know off the bat, based off of our conversation, she's going to need a lot of prenatal check-ins, right? And so when I talk about me in that second portion, I'm going to tell her, I check in with you weekly. I'm going to send you a text each Monday, checking in to see how that week was going. That is when we'll have our conversation. And, you know, so she knows to expect to hear from me every Monday. So that means Friday, you don't have to text me if it's a 411, right? She can text me on Monday, or she can wait until Monday because she knows that's when we are going to talk again, right? Or if we spoke on Monday and it's now Tuesday, she's like, okay, well, I already got most of my questions answered. I can wait until next Monday to talk again. So you take control of that conversation, you kind of take control of the room, and you set those realistic, this is what you can expect from me. This is how I operate. This is how we're going to do this. Go ahead, Melanie.
One thing I wanted to add, because when you mentioned the form that you make them fill out, especially I think also it's important for us birth workers to more like I said, walk in charge, but also consider this, and this is probably a good way to start your mindset. You have to think about we always think that when we have either first discussions with the client either by phone or in person or virtual, that we're the ones in getting the interview. No, we're both sides, we're interviewing each other, because if I don't have good vibes and I'm not going to feel comfortable, I'm not going to be the right fit for you, but I can help you get another doula. Because at the same time, yes, we want to help mama, so we're super excited, we want the money, so we're willing to get ourselves in any situation. But if you feel like you can't, me as a doula, I'm Latina, I'm loud and sassy, and like I want to be who I am. I'm not going to want to feel constructed because the vibe with the mom and their birthing partner is just not comfortable for me. So always think about like this: not only walking there confident and a businesswoman, knowing your protocols of your business, but also know that you're not the only one being interviewed. I'm interviewing those clients, and if it actually helps, I always say, hey, let's have a meeting to see if we are a good fit for each other. I mentioned that so they know they're also being interviewed, because I'm not about to walk in a situation that I just feel like uncomfortable, or if like I want to help them out, give all I got, and they just want me there to look pretty, and I'm like, I want to do work. So that's kind of how I think about it.
Definitely. And I've had a slew of interview questions sometimes, but I appreciate them because you do want to have that candid conversation. Like I had, and I took no offense, actually. I had a client ask me, she was like, how tall are you? Because we were doing a virtual, and what she's assessing is, how big am I? Am I going to be able to support a mom who may be bigger than, like, can I hold her? Can I support her? And these are legit questions. But on the flip side too, as the doula, I have to be realistic as well. If I know that this mama may be a bigger mom than we also have to take into consideration that there's some things in the anatomy that would feel or look a little bit different, right? I know what my pregnancy felt like. I know what my body did, and I know what like breastfeeding was for me. But with this client, breastfeeding may look a little differently because she's a mom with bigger breasts, right? Do I have experience helping moms with bigger breasts breastfeed? Do I have experience with helping? Because I've had like overweight moms and moms who were high risk due to their weight. And you do have to care for them a little bit differently. The expectations of what their epidural may look like may be a little different. So because I was in it, I knew these things, but prior to being in it, I didn't know until it happened, right? And so now I know, and I do have a doula friend who is like, I specialize as a bigger woman, I specialize in clients who are bigger clients because I know how to serve them, what the body anatomy may be for them, and how I can be a benefit to them. So yes, just like you said, Melanie, you are doing an interview back and forth. Don't be afraid to ask your questions and put your questions in there, because they're going to ask you essentially everything they want to know. They're paying you and they're going to ask you all these questions, but do you want to take this birth? It's up to you. And so I'm going to throw in the question, Melanie, how do you take on clients that, or yeah, I'll continue with that sentence. How do you take on clients that you seem to have unclear energy with, right? That you're not sure what they are looking for. How do you make that transition into either continuing with their care or deciding to politely decline and go elsewhere?
I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and it's like, especially for me, my initial contact with them, it's phone call. And then if, I give them 3 days and then they say, okay, I want to hire you, then we do in person. I wait for the in person, right? They haven't even signed anything yet, stuff like that. Because sometimes, person on the phone is also awkward or nervous. So maybe in person, we meet in person, you can get a different vibe. So I do give them the benefit of the doubt, especially in person interaction may be different. So I give that. And if that still seems off to me, depending on what they answer to me and stuff like that, either right there and then or, the night, the day after, I'd be like, it was a pleasure talking to you and stuff like that. But honestly, I feel like we're not the best fit for each other, but I can help you connect with somebody that I feel like will be super able to help you. And then if you take it like, nicely and clean, just like, I'm honestly want the best for you, and I don't think I can provide that. And then they always take it nicely because we're being honest, but yeah, we're being respectful while we do it. So that's kind of how I do it.
I agree. And setting boundaries is also saying, I may not be the best fit for you. And it can be as gentle as that. Sometimes I think we get in our own heads and we feel like if we are turning a client away, like, oh my gosh, we're throwing a mom out to the wolves, right? If we decide to not take her, like, where's she going to get a doula? Anywhere else but here. And if you know somebody who may fit, then you can make a nice passover to, hey, I don't seem to be the best fit for what you're looking for, but I have a doula colleague who is really good at moms who are trying for VBACs, right? I don't have experience with that, but I have a colleague who does. And so I can pass along their information if you want to set up a consultation. And that being said, it seems like we're on the brim of dealing with difficult clients. How do you deal with difficult clients? Do you have a 3-strike rule? Do you have a warning? Do you just cancel services immediately? How do you deal with clients who may be combative, or it could be a possible negative scenario?
So they know what they're going in with me. So in the agreement that they signed, they like, oh, I want to hire you, da, da, da. They sign my agreement. And that conversation, like we're going over what my agreement says, word per line, why per line. And I specify one paragraph at the end says, if I experience any abusive behavior, blah, 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 I have the right to terminate our contract, and and also like keep what you have given me as of now. I have that specified because I'm not going to tolerate to be abused. I'm not going to be yelled at or something. That I'm just helping you. Okay, so there's no reason for me to be treated like this. And I'm an entrepreneur. I have no boss. I have no boss. I don't have no room. I'm the boss. So there again, I don't need nobody coming at me, right? So they know in that when they sign that agreement that they know that I have a no abusive tolerance. So if they break it, they know what it might be. It might be in a termination, depending how bad it was.
Yes, good. Back again to the setting boundaries part. Definitely, the same way we advocate and we tell moms that say no, right? If you feel uncomfortable with anything at any time, I always tell my clients that if we can walk away. You don't have to be subjected to abusive situations or things that don't feel right with you, for you, just because you're in whatever space it may be, the medical space, the birth center space. If it's not working for you, we find our way out of it. But I advocate this for us as doulas as well. If we are uncomfortable, we find our way out of it. I've had uncomfortable situations that I was like, you know what? Might have to leave now. Might have to cancel services now, but just fully understanding your boundaries that you set for yourself. Because yes, there's boundaries that you have on paper. Do not speak to me a certain way, maybe one of them, or you know, do not call me after certain times, and they're continuing to do this and showing that they don't have a respect for your boundary. That's one thing to have on paper, but we have our internal boundaries. We have things that may even be triggering for us. So if you are dealing with a client who may be in an abusive situation, right? The client was lovely, but maybe their partner is a little bit abusive. There's no little bit. You're either abusive or you're not. The partner is abusive. Us as doulas, as much as we want to help, that is something that can be triggering for many of us. And it's something that we won't be able to help personally. You have to give that mom those resources. So those internal things for us, that's like, ooh, the way that client partner interaction went, or even the way that the partner looked at me was triggering for me, and I didn't appreciate this correspondence. We have to terminate the contract. And you can just you don't have to give all of your personal reasons, but having a sit down with those persons and saying, I'm sorry, at this time, I'm going to have to terminate our contract based off of the contractual agreement. These are the terms of termination. This is your refund or not your refund, or whatever it looks like. Usually, if you're the doula canceling, you are going to give a refund. But even in that, telling them exactly how this is going to go down. This will be our last contact. I will be sending you a refund I use QuickBooks. Via QuickBooks, you are expected to receive it in 3 to 5 business days. If you do not, contact your bank, okay, to check it. Contact them first, and if they do not see an interaction, please reach out to me via text and let me know, and I'll do everything on my end to make sure that it does go out. Again, setting clear, concise boundaries for the taking on and the putting off, the letting go of. So based off of that as well, Melanie, how do you handle when clients are expecting more than what's in the contract? Are you a person who's comfortable with saying this is outside of the contract, there's additional fees, or are you one of those who are like, all right, being that I'm your doula, I don't mind throwing a few freebies in there? Because sometimes that's expected. They're looking for that. They're like, we have such a great relationship. I expect some things to kind of just be for free that may be outside of what was in the contract. Say belly binding, if you do that service. I know you don't, but if they wanted something that you do, but are kind of trying to throw it into the care that they're already receiving, because it happens.
Well, yeah, so if it's something that I don't do, be like, honestly, I don't do it and I don't want to guide you incorrectly, or this is not my scope. Or if it's something medical, like even in just a question, I feel like that's kind of something they should ask their midwife or OB. I directly say that because honestly, when it comes to pregnancy, it is something that you don't want to just look good and just answer something. You have, God forbid something happens to the mama trying what you suggested, and it's your liability. So that's one thing. And honestly, when it comes to doing something, I try to go, and every doula has something they need to like improve, and I know like I tend to stretch myself out because I think I can do a lots of things, right? So I do have a extended background, right? But as well, I gotta say, like, can't do that, or I'm not willing to do that, or etc. Because, for example, like sometimes the mom is like, oh, can you come to the ultrasound with me? And that's I don't know, for example, New Brunswick. I am not going to New Brunswick for your ultrasound. I'm letting you know. And Shay knows how I think about driving and parking. I just don't gonna do it. Right? You gotta know what you're okay with. You cannot provide them every service because you are not God or whatever spiritual being you believe in. Like, you cannot do everything, but you can be their resource bucket and say, hey, but I know who can help you with that. I can't, but I know who can, right? So that's why the birth community is beautiful, can be beautiful, because once you collect these resources and connect with these people, you're able to create a good list. It's like, hey, I know this person personally, I spoke to them, and I trust them to help you on this. And that's all you gotta do. You just gotta be a resource bucket. Because, or for example, I have like I said, I have birth doula services, I have prenatal health education service, and then I have, so those are three separate packages. And if they, for example, they signed up for the birth doula services, but they're asking me assistance to apply for Medicaid, I'd be like, if you want that, you gotta pay for the other package too, because mija, I'm not free. Like, actually, me and personally, I have my business, and then I have two other jobs. I don't have time to do extra work like that, unless I'm paying my time. So you just gotta know your limits, and you just gotta know that you just need what you can do and cannot do, and just let them know from the beginning, hey, I may sound amazing, but I cannot do everything, and do not expect that from me.
Definitely. I feel you earn more cool points when you are honest in saying, I'm not the person suitable to do this service for you. Or if it is a service that you do, because I do an array of services, right? And so there's times where I'll have a client who's like, oh, I saw on your website that you also do nutritional counseling, right? You make meal plans. Can I have a meal plan? Yes, you can, for this price. If you saw it on my website, that means you also saw the pricing. And so, as much as we have built a great repertoire and we're a good connection and we're enjoying each other's company, and I can't wait to serve you and the baby, understand that this is also a business. And so, within your package, you get lots of stuff. If you want something outside of your package, there's going to be a fee for that. And that's an energy exchange as far as I'm concerned, because if I'm sitting here with you and you like my services so much that you also want to book me to do this, that, and the other for you, and there are things that I can do, that means that you respect my time, you respect my expertise, and that can be shown in monetary value of the price of my additional packages. And if it's something I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know. Sometimes clients can be a little pushy and try to, oh, well, I know that you don't do this all the time, but you could try belly binding on me, right? You could just give it a try. And I could, but I'm not going to. No. And this is sometimes their way of trying to get a free service. They're like, oh, she's so good at things. She should be good at this. This is something I want to try out. Unless you yourself as the doula have reached out and say, hey, I want to try belly binding. Do you mind being my model for this? Or me trying on you knowing that this is not my expertise, then fine. But that's something simple. But there are more major things that you should say no to. Go ahead.
I just wanted to also add, so like nobody misunderstands what me and Shay are trying to say. Yes, we as doulas come for a very holistic, humble, and passion for this, and we do a lot for moms out of our goodness of our heart. And no, we don't tell everything that you want to the client. Oh, you have to pay. We just want the money. We're money hungry people. We're not saying that to the clients. As doulas, like going back to setting boundaries, we got to know our worth. Okay. We got to know that our knowledge and expertise is worthy of getting paid for. And it's okay to ask for what you're worth. It's not that you're money hungry, that you just want money from clients and be, those weird, incorrect people out there like that. But like I said, we just gotta know our worth, and we cannot let people take away our worth by asking for free things.
And time. We know we have the expertise, we have the resources, but also the time. When we take on clients, right, there's no saying how much of our time this client is going to take up. Now we set our boundaries of the expectations, like I expect I'm going to get 2 to 3 texts a month from this client, but there's nothing to really say. And even in knowing that, we are saying that yes, we still want to be your doula, yes, we want you to be our client, knowing that this could very well be you're texting me every day, and within the constraints of what I said, I can respond every day, but that's a chunk of my time, right? And then the actual birth, right? We don't know how long we're going to be there. But I told you that I would be here, and up to a certain amount of time. I have some doulas who have a 24-hour clause. They say after 24 hours, I need to go home and rest and return to you. I have some doulas who have a 12-hour clause. There are different specifications for that. And so when we as birth workers are taking on clients, no number really is, yeah, answer it. Sorry. Okay. Hold on, Melanie. Feel free to fill in my space.
I don't know exactly where she was going with that, but I also wanted to just mention some things that like came up in my mind. Um, Sometimes, we feel like, especially after, like moms had their baby, depends how long you generally stay with the mom after. Um, some moms do expect you to do everything or be the nanny now that the baby is born in the hospital. No, I'm here to wait until you're stable, baby is stable, you know how to, your breastfeeding went okay, and well, I'll be in touch with you and whatever you have, depending. I generally reach out within the week, and then I do a 3-week postpartum visit if they want. So that's an optional, but it's included in the package that I, asked. So just know how long and what you're willing to do, especially postpartumly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for filling in. I got bits and pieces as I was running back and forth. But yes, definitely in postpartum times, we do get to kind of put more of a set schedule, which is the great thing about postpartum. But say we're sitting there with a mom who's having a hard time postpartum, we're not going to say, oh well, your 4-hour visit is done now, it just ended, so in the middle of her crying trying to breastfeed, she's sore, so I'm going to leave. I'll come back later, see you. We do throw in a lot of freebies without them realizing. So never feel guilty about putting your price, and about kind of being strict on your price, and about saying no to certain things, right? Because you know that you're putting in all your time and your energy and your resources, and you are going to be there kind of by any means necessary to support and give them what they need. And sometimes some clients may take advantage and say that they need more from you. And you don't have to feel obligated to give them that more just because you have created a great relationship, and because you feel like, oh, if I don't do this, she's going to think I'm a bad doula. No, your time, your resources, your energy is so valuable. And so you have to believe that for yourself, and that will drive you to be a little bit more firm in your set boundaries and your expectation and their expectations thereof. And that kind of segues into, it happens quite often We get to have the consultations with clients and it seems to be great energy. And then the client, I'll say two things. The client either hits you back in a few days after you had such a great consultation and you're like, where is this client? They said they wanted me. They hit you back and go, oh, I don't have the means right now to pay for your services. Or they signed the contract, they've made most doulas do like a half and half. They do contract signing and then another half at a certain point. So if they've signed the contract and now it's coming around to the next part of payment and this client has ghosted you, has disappeared, is not responding. How do you address, Melanie, these two situations?
Well, when it comes to payment, I kind of do it a little different. So first, when it comes to, oh, I don't know if I can afford and stuff like that. There's a great organization that is new called Be Her Village, and they can put your service on their baby registry. So you can introduce that option. And me personally, I introduce another option that I provide. Not every people do it. I'd be like, I do payment plans. So I'll be like, you have until this many weeks to give me the whole amount. The parents that can, don't have no problem. Obviously, sometimes they give me all at once or they do the two-parter. But at the same, so far I haven't had an issue of people not paying me what they owe. But you just gotta give them those two options. And if you're lucky enough to be a doula that accepts insurance, there's no excuse for the whole process not to happen. Sometimes family or birthing partner influences and they change their minds after they get back to you. And so that's something else that, that sadly happens, but it is not your fault. People think, oh, what did I say wrong? What did I do? No, it's not you. It's never you. You know your worth. You know how many times you've been doing this. It's not you. Because I have the same spiel every time I talk to a client. So there's no way that I said something wrong because I know my spiel already. So that's another way.
Yep. No, I've been doing this for years. This is how it goes. And I get booked plenty of times. So if it's didn't happen this way, it's you, it's not me. No. But no, luckily as well, I haven't had any issues with payment really, other than people being late. What I have learned to do, I'll say two things. I've learned, for one, and I've done this almost since the beginning, put your prices. I think if you look back at all my videos, you'll probably see me saying this. Put your prices on your websites, because that means that you, all right, I'm a doula, Melanie needs a doula. She saw my website, she liked my website, she booked me for a consultation. So if you book me through my website, I know that means that you saw my prices. And if you saw my prices and you couldn't afford them and you still booked me, all right. But usually, people don't do that. They see the prices and they go, this could work or this couldn't. And to give more context, I even put on my website payment plans available and certain discounts available. So for example, I do give discounts to single mothers. I give discounts to teen mothers. Okay, so for this reason, there's discounts out there for you. So if you saw that price and you were thinking, I could possibly afford this, and she offers discounts and payment plans, then they would set up a consultation. Now, if they think they can't afford this, but they want to know my payment plans, they set up a consultation as well. But I can't say that anybody has looked and been like, oh, I can't afford you, and they still sat through a consultation and then were unable to pay anything. We can work something out as far as payment plan when these payments are made, but being upfront about that. This is my big don't sit there and when they go, oh, I don't know if I could afford it, be like, oh, we can bring the price down, or maybe we can make this cheap. If you are to make your service cheaper, that means you're taking out a few things from this service, right? So you're not going to give somebody, for me, I have a few packages. So my basic is my 2 prenatals, labor support, 1 postpartum. So if you now need cheaper, it's going to be 1 prenatal for you maybe, and labor support, and 1 postpartum, or no prenatal, no postpartum or whatever it is that you're looking for. But I'm not going to give the full package to a person who does not qualify for discount and cannot pay payment plan. I'm not going to give you a full package for cheaper. That's weird. Why would I do that? But we can discuss what your options are, like a la carte. So you have that option to go that route as well. So I'm very big on putting your prices out there, speaking discounts, and being transparent and saying, I am not going to accept less money for services. Sometimes I have some doulas who the clients may suggest or may lead to a service that's their more expensive package and then be like, well, I can't pay that. Well, then you're looking at the wrong package, sweetie. You got to look at the other package. We got to create something that you can afford. Or I'm a big advocate for this too. I can send you to a doula who's within your price range. Because there are some doulas out there. And I don't mind being a resource and somebody that you may want to check in with. But I cannot be your doula if you definitely can't afford, you can't even afford a payment plan with me. I am not the doula for you, but we can find a doula that suits your needs or use outside resources. Be Her Village, I'm part now too. Look into insurance coverage. As doulas, we can give detailed invoices and some insurance companies will pick it up and give a coverage of a percentage. So you can offer that option. Being transparent and letting them know that it may not be covered. You as the client, you must do your due diligence and do your research and see what the insurance company needs to possibly cover a portion of my services. You can't hire me and then be like, oh, well, I need you to contact my insurance company, or I need you to provide this to my insurance company or speak to them. No, you do your research, you get back to me, you tell me what you need from me, which should be usually a detailed invoice. I give that to you and then it's in your hands. So just making sure to be transparent in how that transaction is to go as well. I find to be very helpful. And then for clients who may kind of, sometimes we get clients that kind of ghost us a little bit. They may hire you, may made that first payment and then disappeared a little while, not answering texts. And now you're like, it's time for second payment. Am I still your doula? I've had that happen where the client, they booked me, they're so excited. And then it comes to like doing their meetings. And I'm like, where are you? You're not answering my text. And I'm like, oh, I'm so busy. Like I get to hear from them months later. And I have some clients who've had their babies without, not without contacting me, but without having my prenatal services, right? They called me when the baby was being born, even though they booked for prenatals. You put that in your contract as well. You have this many prenatals, you have this many postpartums. Your prenatals can turn into postpartums if we do not get them all out of the way. They can turn into an additional service, but they are not going to be refunded for if you have not scheduled your visits within the certain time period that they're to be scheduled. Don't open up the door for back and forths of finances. You don't want to be like, oh, well, oh, you only got one prenatal, well, I'm going to give you your money back. Just don't do it, because then you got to equate and make sure to calculate, and who wants to get into that money talk? Understand that they're paying for a service, and so you can design the service within the prices that you give them, but you don't have to take away once the money has been sent to you and contracts have been sent over. We now don't need to be doing a transaction back and forth of finances. That, again, that's also weird. Let's not do that. And so just being very transparent and setting your boundaries on that, and letting them know, even within your contract, this is how money flows within the business. Because at the end of the day, say things do not go the way you or I planned them to go, and it's now gotten as far as to the client going, so Melanie, so what do we do next? Because now your services are canceled, or you missed the birth, or whatever. You don't want to have to sit there thinking, what do we do next? How do I, what should I do? That was already thought of and written in the contract. Under the circumstances of, if I miss your birth due to my own poor planning, you get a refund of this. If I miss your birth because you failed to contact me or my backup doula, there is no refund. You know, having your contract lay out all of that, so it doesn't have to be a what do we do now. We refer to the contract and we're going to go according to that. And so if your contract is weak, then there's going to have to be a lot of aftermath thinking, and you're going to have to try to come up with something to make the client happy, and it could feel like a lot of pressure. No weak contracts, transparency, strong contracts lead for good, efficient doula client relationships and correspondence. And that's where the business part of me comes in, where I'm like, yeah, we got contracts and papers saying this, that, and the other. That is what we are going to abide by and utilize when it comes to my services, because we are a business at the end of the day. So yeah, putting that in there.
Yeah, like also like when it comes going, now that we're talking about contracts again, and me, at least mine at the end, it 3 people signs it: the mama, the birthing partner, and me. So there's no way that none of us know how the contract, what the contract says. There's 3 people that read it supposedly, and they signed it. Yeah. So like it was just me and the mama. No, it was me, the mama, and whatever birthing partner the mom had. So this should not be news to her.
Nothing should be new, right? I agree. Same. Yes, Brenda, I can. If you can submit your email, I can send you some examples. And also, depending on who you certified with, or if you're still certifying, sometimes they give contracts to you, and so that's a great way to build your contract. You kind of get the basis of what it needs to be, and then you build upon that depending on what your clientele looks like, what you want your service to look like. And so my contract is ever changing. I'm always not ever changing, but I at least do an annual review of my contracts to look over. I go based off of what did those births look like this year? How did they go? What's a question that came up? What seemed to be like missed and was written in the contract? Maybe I need to reword it. But each year I do an evaluation of my contract to see if it still stands, if it makes sense, and if anything needs to be tweaked, because the world is ever changing. Example, COVID. A lot of doulas were now like, oh, what do I do because COVID? Now do I refund? What if I can't make it to the birth? What if this? What if that? Hospital policy. Now we have COVID clauses in our contracts, at least I do. And so that's one example, but there are many things that can change within a period of time. Maybe your experiences at certain hospitals, you might have in your contract, I will not go to NYC hospital because you had a bad experience there. And so if a client goes and tries to book you or books you, and you have that clause that you do not go to NYC hospital, they understand that you will serve them at home before they get to the hospital. You will be there after they come home from that hospital, but you will not be present at that hospital for whatever reason. Your contract is your binding agreement. That is your Bible. Okay, this is what you are going by, and it should reflect you and what you want. You don't just put a contract together just to say, oh, I got a contract and send it out. It needs to be what you want, because that is, at the end of the day, for any legal reasons, if anything came up legally and now you are sitting before a judge, that is going to be what they are going by. What did you write down in that contract? What did they sign off on? And if you don't have full understanding of your own contract, and your contract is just fluff and something you put together just so you can say, oh, I have a contract, you're going to be doodling yourself at the judge's office going, oh man, I should have put this in the contract. Now you're unsure and uncertain with what you should do next. So definitely being secure in your contractual agreements as to what that should look like.
Yeah, and also like the contract is like what you said, is the representation of you. So it's just, you gotta keep it up and be serious about it, because sometimes I know that some people have a contract, it's clean and everything, but then because they're so invested or they want to do a little bit more, they forgot about their own contract, what they said they were not willing to do, you know what I'm saying? And we just can't, because then that's when they start not taking you as a professional, and you let.
Agreed. Yes. And clients are looking for contracts as well. They want to see a nice, strong contract, at least good ones, And in the birth world, you don't know who you're working with. You don't know right away if this person is a lawyer, if this person spouse is a lawyer. You don't have all the details, but you want to make sure that when you send over that contract, that it makes sense, that it is a proper agreement, that it's professional, because at any point in time, things can change. And if they want to, as much as we don't want to think about it because we're doulas and we're birth workers and we lead with our heart, if somebody wants to kind of get us, they can, if our contract isn't meeting specifications and qualifications. Like you want a strong contract.
I go by 3 points. Client should have a copy, you should have a copy, and you should send a copy by email. So no, God, if something happens, it's like, I have a copy, and look, this is the email that shows I did send them a copy too. So always cover your bases too.
Definitely.
Because you never know how the client, if that happens, you don't know how the client acts against you.
Yeah, nope, definitely. I agree with that. I support that. And I had another question, but it left my mind in regards to just setting your boundaries. Another thing that I'll throw in there as far as setting your boundaries is if you have, for example, we have the BBC, we have our Diverse Doula Collective. If you have restrictions on the services that you can provide or the time frames that you can abide within, it's important and it's good to have backup doulas who can provide the services that are being looked for, or to back you up. So say I know that I am not going to be available from December 12th through December 30th, right? But a client booked me and her due date is December 10th. I may be there for your birth, but I may not be there for your birth. I want you to know that, and I want to make sure that I have somebody who can be there. So with full understanding that I might not be able to be present there and you still want to move forward with me, understand that this is my backup, this is my support person, and you will be introduced to them and they will be present for the birth. And so that's also a clause sometimes that are put in contracts, but just making sure that that understanding is there. Sometimes when clients also hear backup, they get nervous because they're like, what do we need a backup for? Are you going to miss my birth? Aren't you going to be there? But it's no, they're set in place because in case of any emergency where you cannot contact me, you can contact the backup. So making sure that you have a good network of people that you can rely on to support you as you support others is super important. And it makes you feel more secure in setting those boundaries because you know that you have people backing you up and that a client doesn't have too much to be upset about if by chance some of the things that you said may happens because you have somebody there.
And you can also tell a client, like, sometimes, and I'm like, I'm not saying that I'm not gonna be there, but it's like, you never know. For example, like when it comes to you, Shay, you have children. I do not. So when I was your backup recently, she's like, hey, Mel, I cannot go right now. I do not have, my husband's not home yet, but can you go to the client because she's, having actions. So having that backup is so key because say in that instance, I'm free to go because I don't have, those responsibilities and I'm able to do that coverage. And once, you were able to, and you came back in and did the rest of the birth. So having a backup is not only a way to help, make sure that somebody's there for the mama, but also setting that like boundaries is like, if I'm not here, here is my rules, but I do have somebody for you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, backups are a great thing. You were a lifesaver at that birth. Thank you. But yeah, for reasons like that, it takes the pressure off of you because it is very easy to be overwhelmed and to be nervous and anxious if now a birth is coming up and you're looking at your calendar and you're looking at your clock and you have something to do with the kids or you're in the middle of doing something and it's like I have to drop everything and run over to this birth. I'm not dressed. I haven't rested. I haven't napped since my last birth or for the day at all. And now I have to go to a birth that may be, 12 to 24 hours, it's a lot. So making sure that your clients understand the purpose of your backup is important, and it's beneficial for both your sanity and your client's sanity, to know. So some doulas also don't want to bring up the fact that they have backups because they think it's a poor reflection. It's never a poor reflection to have a backup, unless the backup is a poor, it's not a good doula. But this is why you choose a backup that you feel comfortable with, because that also makes you gives you the ability to be more transparent and saying, yeah, Melanie is my backup and she is fabulous. You are in good hands. If I'm unavailable, she's going to be there and she's going to move with you and dance with you and do all of the things until I'm there. Right. So you feel more confident and comfortable when you set and establish those boundaries, when you have good people in your corner to be the support people for your potential clients. So yes, I'm going to ask the question, Melanie, how do you support or feel about clients who are having a hard time with their doctors? May feel like they don't want to speak to their doctors, they're scared of their doctors, they don't trust their doctors. I get this a lot as a doula. When I ask, what is your reason for wanting a doula? They go, well, I'm not really good for advocating for myself, so I need somebody to kind of take the heat for me and advocate for me, which that is a truthful and honest and okay answer. But as a doula, well, I'll jump in and say, and then I'll give it back to you, Melanie. So as a doula, we are not trying to burn bridges. We are not trying to rub the doctors the wrong way. We are not going in there swinging for the clients right off the bat, right? For me personally, when I hear that from clients, this is what it means to me. I need to inform you of how to advocate for yourself. I cannot advocate for you if you're not advocating for you. So you can't say, oh, I need you to advocate for me, and now we're sitting in the birth room, and before we got in this birth room you said you don't want the doctor to break your water, and now we see the doctor bring out the amnio hook, and I'm going to say as your doula, oh doctor, that's an amnio hook, that's for breaking water, right? And the doctor's going to go, yeah. I'm not going to go, well, don't do it. I am going to engage my client and be like, hey client, hey Melanie, did you want your waters broken? Now, if you're sitting there going, just waiting for me to talk and the doctor's coming at you with a hook, I'm expecting you to speak up. I have informed you of what it is, what the process looks like, and all of that. I expect you to advocate for yourself based off of the information and the opening of the doors that I have given you. Because I can't be in there saying, she doesn't want this, she doesn't want that, she doesn't want this, she doesn't want that, and the she isn't saying anything at all. What is it going to look like? This is a bossy doula who doesn't know her place, and doesn't understand her client, and it's not a good look. And I may not be welcome in that birth space with that doctor ever again. This is your one experience, but the chance of me going and meeting this doctor again is pretty great. And so as much as I am going to be a shield for my client, it's a shield of information that you're going to have. It's not me being like, no, doctor, don't touch her. I'm not going to physically push myself in the way between doctor and client and fight for them physically. It is definitely informational, and then emotional. I'm there for the emotional support and to empower and encourage my client to speak up for herself. But sometimes clients don't accept that or know that or understand that. And the reason they don't is because I didn't tell them that, because I didn't set those boundaries. So make sure you set those boundaries for that. So go ahead, Melanie, tell me how that works for you.
I kind of started from the first call. That's part of my spiel. I kind of, like I say, like through our work together, especially in our prenatals, I'm going to teach you and your birthing partner how to advocate for yourselves and what questions to ask. So when that day comes, and if you're not able to speak or whatever, your partner got to say something. I cannot say something. That's not my place. Because, first of all, I'm not taking away your voice. second of all, that's not what a kind of what the doula should be doing of all of our studies, you know? So I teach the clients about the brain acronym. I I teach them that. I go over the process, especially, for example, if they have a C-section, I'm gonna walk through it with them. If they have a planned C-section, I'm gonna walk through it with them. Now, say like Shay, like what you said, if there's in a situation like that that you know that client didn't want that, I can't say, oh, she don't want that. I look either what I personally do, either look at the client or look at the birthing partner, and I just make my Latino look. They know by my look that they should know that to reconsider it or to like read, talk and ask more questions. Or something like that. But I'm very big either making a birth plan collage or a birth plan. So once they step their foot into that hospital or birthing center or whatever it is, they give it to the nurse or whatever. It's like for you to read and you to pass it along, and do not forget to ask if they did read it, because if they did, they come to you and then, hey, I wasn't sure about these 2 points that you put here, let's discuss. Okay, so from there, at least we all know what we wanted. Now, obviously birth plans, you cannot, it's hard because you got to be flexible, right? Because you never know what to expect, but having that everybody's clear is good. Having, that's kind of how I do it. Just say, this is how I'm going to teach it to you, and this is how you are going to advocate for you. And these are different examples of how you can do that.
Definitely. All of that. Exactly. We are there for the education. We are going to teach you how to advocate. We're going to make sure you have all of the information to make your informed decision. And then if you feel you can't speak, your partner was there, your partner can speak for you. And if you need to clear the room, now that I can do. And so I go over safe words with my client too. Give me the safe word. If you feel uncomfortable when the doctor came in there and now you are shaken and you don't know what to say next. Hey, Shay, orange juice, please. Orange juice, that's code for please, can we clear the room? So I'm gonna say, oh, it looks like the couple wants to talk a little bit. Is it okay if they have a few minutes? And that is what it's gonna be. You are gonna talk to your partner. Now you can include me, of course, in the conversation once the doctor exits, but you cannot put me in the forefront and expect that I'm gonna be like, hey, doctor, don't touch my client. No, she don't want this. She said no to that. No, that is what I'm here for, to give you all that information beforehand, because we are in their space. As much as we don't want to admit or take on that energy, once we step foot in the hospital, that is the doctor's domain. That is their space. This is their home. We are guests here, and we chose to come here. On top of that, meaning at some point when we were laboring at home, you said, I'm ready to go to the hospital, with knowing that when we spoke earlier and we had our prenatals, that there could be some interventions that may have happened once we enter this space. And so you chose to come in at that time, and it's not right, wrong, or indifferent. It just is what it is. We came in at this time, but we know with coming into the hospital, we now kind of open the door for the doctor's advice and the doctor to come in and say, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. We fully understand that and accept that. You accepted when you signed me as your doula, and when we walked through these doors of the hospital, you accepted that you are going to have to advocate for yourself in this space a little bit more than at home. And at home was your domain. We are now in the doctors. We have to be respectful as a whole, and you can't expect me to put my doula name on the line because I have lots more mamas to serve after this. And I don't want to have a bad example or set a bad example of doulas within the space. Okay, so no. I'm also going to ask Melanie, I've had this happen a few times where the client will straight up say to the doctor, well, I'm going to ask my doula, right? And the doctor goes, oh, you do that, right? Like, but who's this doula? Like, what do you mean? And so how do you operate when a client may turn to you, even with the medical professional in the space, and be like, hey, no, the doctor said this. Shay, what do you think? Melanie, what do you think we should do next? And I've had clients, they'll fully ignore the doctor while the doctor's in the room and just be turning to me for my advice. And I'm sitting there like, well, so Melanie, you could go ahead first. What do you do in that space and time?
I think I kind of try to word things. So be like, instead, why don't we do this? Why don't we discuss? If you have any questions, I'll answer, but we discuss as a group, and you make an informed decision together based on our conversation that we had. And then you can maybe follow up with the provider. I don't know. I try to word it something like that to make it, first of all, alleviate what they just put on me in front of the doctor. Because, oh boy, no. Like, no. And also, I also teach the client throughout the time with me word language. So word language is essential, especially dealing when if you're giving birth at the hospital. Like sometimes they're like, I think it's good that we should, and give you an induction, just to be on the safe side. And what did they say? They did none of their language that they said that it was necessary or medically necessary because of whatever reason. Or hey, for your, I think we're gonna give you an epidural because da 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 da. Or, oh, I think we should give you this medication, da da da. You gotta pay attention to their word language, because depending how they say it, if it's actually what the providers what's convenient for the provider, or if it's actually medically needed for you. So I teach that too. So that's also a part of that side note, that I try to teach them as well when it comes to dealing with providers. Or my clients know, if they put me in that position, they should already know by whatever the doctor said, if it's something they know if it's not a real thing or if it's a real thing. Yeah. And then that's how they know what they want to do in the situation, because they've heard the language.
Yeah, they know how to approach, how to make their decision based off of you giving the information beforehand. Definitely. I will repeat what the doctor said. In the sense that, okay, the doctor said the baby is having some decels in the heart rate, right? And they are thinking that they want to do a C-section if in the next hour there aren't better decels, there isn't a better fluctuation in heart rate. So that's what they said. Now you heard that and you're like, what, Shay, what do you think about that? So I'm gonna say, well, the doctor is showing that there are decels, right, doctor? Is that what you said? Can we see them? Now we're looking on the chart. You see these decels? That is what he's concerned about. And so the options you have here are, in this hour that he's giving you, we can move around and see if the baby has better heart rate. Maybe, doctor, do you think that maybe lactated ringers, maybe she needs more fluids? Do you think that would be helpful? I pulled the doctor back into the conversation. We're not about to exclude your medical provider. This is the person who is caring for you. And as much as I am the holistic doula, I'm here to give options. I'm not here to call the medical provider a liar and be like, oh, they just want to do what they want to do. No, we are going to look at the evidence thereof. We are going to discuss the options as a team, because if the doctor was talking to you and you brought me into you and the doctor's conversation, that's a team thing, right? So I'm going to address it in a team-like manner. And pull the doctor back in. Doctor, can we try lactated ringers and see, and we evaluate in the hour? Like, what do you think we should do within this hour that you're giving us to see if baby's heart rate is fine? And we go on from there. Again, setting the boundaries of, you are not going to put me again in the forefront. You understand and know that I am not a medical provider and I cannot give medical advice. I can go over the options with you. I can help you clarify what you are being told, but I'm not going to make a decision for you or tell you what to do. You go based off of what we know, what we've discussed, and the evidence that is presented in front of us. And that's usually the way that that goes for me. So I will ask this last question, and then we'll open the floor for questions. And so we went through prenatals, we went to, now we are in birth, and so now postpartum, right? For clients in the postpartum who, how do I word this question? Because I had it in my head prior to this. Clients who are in the postpartum stage and may feel, stop that they need additional supports, or that they need no support. How do you set up? Actually, no, erase that. This is the question that I was going to ask. So how in the postpartum as a doula do you differentiate yourself as a postpartum doula giving postpartum services, and a nanny or a night nurse or whatever else they may think they need for additional support outside of your scope of what you are promising to do? I often get that clients don't even know the difference between a postpartum doula, a nanny, or a night nurse. And so sometimes they will ask for things that are not within the scope of practice for a postpartum doula. And so how do you address that? Or what do you say in these instances?
Well, first, they from the beginning, they know that I'm not a postpartum doula.
Mhm.
And what I do postpartum is I do one phone call check, 1 week after checkup with you. And then if you want, I do a 3-week follow-up in your home, answer any of your questions, talk how you think the birth went, and that's it, right? However, sometimes I get it, like the question about the nanny or additional services either before birth or after birth. I'd be like, hey, this is what I know how to do, but I have the resources if you need additional assistance with anything that you come, especially for you parents. They need, sometimes they need more help. And like, I have resources that you can contact for those additional services, because it's not in my scope, and I do not want to, like, again, don't want to lead you in the wrong way. There again, also don't want to stretch myself. Well, no, I'm not going to say this to the client, but I'm not going to stretch myself thin. I'm not going to do something I don't know how to do. And third, I know that I don't know how to do it. There again, I wouldn't even know how to price it. So.
All right. Well said. I am a full spectrum, so I do deal with moms in fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum. But I do not typically do a schedule of postpartum visits, like meaning I don't have many clients that will hire me just for postpartum services. My client was with me from birth, maybe from fertility to birth, and then now they get their postpartum visit. And so usually one, that relationship has already been established. They know my scope of practice, but more so they know what I am going to do, and the things that I'm not going to do. Meaning I am here for a postpartum visit. We are going to go over newborn education. How do you bathe the baby? How do you clip the baby's nails? How do you swaddle the baby? A doula is all about information. Number one, we're there to give you the information, and then we're there to give you the emotional support with some physical aspects, right? So I approach postpartum the same way. I will do the education piece. I am teaching you hands-on how to care for your baby. We can go over swaddling, we can go over baby wearing. I'm going to talk to you about how you're eating, because nutrition is important, and I want to support and make sure that you are doing the proper things to eat. And we will go over the basics of breastfeeding, because I am not a lactation counselor, a lactation consultant, but I have basics of breastfeeding. I'm a breastfeeding peer counselor, so we can talk about what breastfeeding should look like, feel like. And aside from that, I will do little things like hold the baby while you shower, maybe watch them while you're sleeping. I'll give you a few hours of peace, but my visits are for informational purposes to prepare you for the journey ahead. Now, a night nurse is doing the physical things, right? She is checking over you and the baby, making sure baby is healing well, whether it's circumcision, umbilical cord, whatever. She's doing that, nursing the baby, doing kind of like the neonatal thing, what they would do if baby was in the nursery, and then caring for you as well. And a nanny is taking care of the child. The nanny doesn't really take care of mom. So do not expect me to come in and do your laundry, to clean your house, to to feed you much. These I do within the bubble, the scope of practice of the support that a mom needs, in educational wise, and then emotional within these confines. And I will outsource, meaning I will send you resources for people who may be able to do more than I do. And just as I'm saying it right now in this discussion, that is how I say it to the client. So they know what to expect of me when I come in for a postpartum visit. And they know that they can't sit there and be like, Shay, you're not going to do my laundry? No, because we discussed that. And it's also in, if I am to be booked for just solely postpartum visits, it's in my postpartum contract. So we kind of go back to contracts. And so they know what to expect of my services within the contract. But yeah, I'm very forthcoming, very forthright in saying these are the things to expect of me. And if you need something outside of these things, that is another conversation. That is another service. And we will find you a way to get that. And period. Thank you for choosing me to be your doula. Your baby is adorable. I am here to emotionally support you. And you can call me, pretty much almost any time. When do I answer? That's another conversation. But you are welcome to contact me if you have any questions or concerns about your well-being or newborn's well-being. And I actually extend my service to the first year of life. So meaning within the first year, if you need a resource, if something looks funny to you, if you are worried about something and you're wondering the new child rearing method and do I know anything about co-sleeping or baby wearing, you can contact me with these things. And if I don't, again, I will send you the resources to help you make that informed decision as to how you want to care for your baby, who is now in the world. And that's that. So we went through prenatals, we went through birth, we went through postpartum. Thank you, Melanie. I'm so glad to have sat here with you as usual. I love just talking in general. So it's great that we're having a discussion, but it's always a great discussion with you. And I will now open the floor for questions. So Brenda, if you have any questions, now is your time.
I just have two questions. My first question is, how much do you compensate your backup doula? And then when they are the backup. And then my second question is, how do you help a birthing person who is struggling with anxiety and depression and taking medication for it? If you guys are able to answer those questions.
Yes. So I don't know, have you used backups, Melanie? Do you she's usually available.
I do use backups. What I do, I mean, I guess, I don't know. What I tend to do is basically like think about what my fee was, and then think about what a backup doula is. So backup doula is just, just in case you can't be there at the labor, she'll be there. But I was the one that did a bunch of work with her prenatally. I did all that work. So I gotta think, I did a lot of work. She's only going there for one day, whatever, the labor. Yeah. So I kind of try to I give like I would give 40%, something like that. And then the rest, if I had that long history with the client, depending, but I try to make it as fair as I can when it comes to backups.
Yes. My breakdown is just a little different, but I would say
Yes.
you're a little, you're correct maybe on the percentage. So typically, so if a backup doula is present for my client's birth, so say, my client went into labor and I said, hey, Melanie, can you go there and be present for her? And she's present for her up until 12 hours and then mom has her baby, I give 500 for up to 12 hours of support with birthing the baby within that time frame. So usually that looks like maybe 8 hours with an hour to pushing, or 3 hours of pushing, or however it may look. So usually 12 hours or less with birth, that my backup would get 500. Now, if they're there 12 hours or more with birth, they'll get the initial 500, and then they will get a hourly fee of 20 $30. So they will get $30 hourly after that 12-hour time. And if they're just there in the first, actually no, it's 20 after 12 hours, but it's 30 if they are there to support before the baby is born. So if I just need Melanie, and she said 30 because that is what I used her for. I needed her to be there for a few hours until I was able to reach the mom. So she got 30 per hour that she was there. Now, if she was there until 12 hours, then it would have been 500, but she was there a few hours for me. And that's what it looks like. And so it is about 40% of my basic package fee, but it will depend on also what other services. So if you're doing more than the birth, if you were present at the postpartum, or you did my postpartum visits, then you would be paid my full amount for the postpartum visits, which is 40 an hour. I get 40 an hour for postpartums. And so, yeah, that is the breakdown. As far as working with moms with anxiety who are on medication, I work quite often with high anxiety moms who suffer depression. And so you're saying, how do I serve them? What do you want? So.
Yeah, how do you serve them? Because you can't tell them to get off the medication. I mean, you have to find, I'm assuming, ways of being able to help them, like to cope, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, one, definitely, I don't tell them to get off of the medication. I will never tell anybody to get off of any medication because that is not my place. And so if they've been pregnant and their doctor told them to be on their medication, I ain't gonna tell them I'm gonna get off of medication. If she's concerned about it in pregnancy, I will tell her to contact her doctor and talk about the concerns. But I don't give any medication advice. And this is even, I have a background in pharmacy. Even with my background in pharmacy, I still don't jump in and really say anything about medication because that is a case by case basis. And I'm an evidence-based doula as well. So that means I'm specifically catering to you as an individual. And I can't make suggestions to you as an individual who is on medication because I am not the medical provider. So I don't know the history thereof, and even what to say to like properly lead you. But I do try to, for my high anxiety clients, I try to be just a little bit more in touch with them and provide them resources of care. So I often send like guided meditations. I send affirmations. I send actual physical, tangible information that they may need for labor, like laboring during high anxiety moments, or coping with anxiety throughout pregnancy. Like I will send these documents to them so that they have things there. And so also if they have concerns about any part of their pregnancy, they'll have the documents speaking about these certain concerns. So it's not just going to be, hey, Shay, my doula said this, but they will have the documents to read over. Part of having anxiety is the unknown, right? That you feel anxious with not knowing what's next. So I tend to give a lot of information on what to expect. And so that they have things to read over and kind of give them peace. There's peace in repetition. I'm big on, repetition being the mother of learning. We go through scenarios. That's one of my favorite things to do. I myself suffer anxiety, so for me personally, running things through my head of these are all the ways this could go helps me to better cope if it happens in any of these scenarios that I thought it was going to go. So from the doula professional point of view, I will say for a mom, okay, mom, you are showing to be preeclamptic. You can expect when you go to your visits, they're going to get a urine sample. They're going to check your blood pressure. I suggest you getting a blood pressure monitor of your own and checking your own blood pressure. So it's not surprising if they say your blood pressure is higher than it was last week. You'll already know because you've been checking it, daily. But just giving them all of the resources and information to just support them and gear them up for the next step of their pregnancy and then their labor. And then in labor, assuring them, you got this, you could do this. Remember, we spoke about in the prenatals that you may feel that pressure in your lower back. And when you feel it down there, you know that that means you are probably further along in labor than you were 2 hours ago. You're probably in active phase once you're feeling that pain in the lower back right above the tailbone. Just making it be a hands-on experience for them and an interactive experience for them, because when there's proof and they're walking through these things that they already learned about, they can just have some peace in understanding that, all right, things are progressing, or I am okay because we already talked about this. Like, this isn't some crazy case where this never happened before. We already know what this means, or what it could mean. So just lots of repetition and talking and coaching is how I handle my high anxiety moms, and also making sure that they have support people who understand the ways to pacify them, the ways to treat them, and the ways that they may need to take on when the baby gets here, because postpartum anxiety is a thing. Know the signs thereof so that they can step in and take care of mom and baby, or baby, however may be necessary in that moment.
That's good. I don't have another question.
No problem. Anything you want to add in there, Melanie?
Yes, I mean, I think everything that you said, I would also just add, like, I tend to, if I have know some clients that they know they are have anxiety and stuff like that, I'd be like, I relate to them. I also have anxiety. I also take the medication. So I understand. So I understand what this is the, I tend to do this and this to help my anxiety. Now that's what I also discuss prenatals is for us to get to know each other, to bond, and especially for, I say it because we need to know each other, feel comfortable with each other, so that day comes we can work as a team. So I kind of, throughout that process of getting to know each other, we're working on certain anxiety stuff, like she says, oh, when I do this, I get anxiety. Maybe give an idea to what to cope with. Sometimes new moms need mommy groups, expecting mommy groups. So they know they're not the only ones going through these hard times. I also do a little bit of mindset coaching. But I also know that sometimes these moms that just need, like Shay says, the education. They just need the reinsurance to run through. You might know that this client may need to talk to you more often than another client. You just know that that's what you're gonna expect. So basically, yeah, I try to be a little bit closer and helpful when it comes to their anxiety, and try to work with them. And also, I'm very big on resources. Like, I'm not a psychologist or a therapist, but here's a resource, right? Because sometimes they feel so comfortable with you, they want to tell you everything, and it's good and all. But first, you don't want to advise them correctly because you don't know what the mom's gonna do. And second, why would a mom suffer, right? So I am not qualified to help you not suffer. There's also therapy, something, just basically finding ways to help them, depending on the circumstance.
That's good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, perfect. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, ladies. This concludes our doula discussion for this evening. Brenda, I do have your email. If you want, we also have a newsletter, and so there are future discussions. I tend to do monthly discussions on various topics for birth workers, hosting safe spaces for birth workers. And so you can get the email updates as to where and when these things are happening. They're usually virtual, so where on the computer, when at least one day each month. So you will receive that. But thank you for being part. Thank you, Melanie, for giving your expertise and making time for us this evening. And I am going to sign off with a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.